My name is Simon Russell. I represent Hui o Malama Aina. I am a registered lobbyist, not paid for this issue, but it is a passion of mine, and I have a history of a background with electronics and computer science, as well as Federal Communications Commission certification to work as a telecommunications technician. So I can speak a little bit to the small cell towers that are currently being rolled out on the island of Oahu, and my area of concern there with that rollout that may in fact come to Maui. And I am here to say that I do not give my consent to be experimented on with fifth generation millimeter wave signals. I also do not give my consent to be a part of the total surveillance society, the massive harvesting of data that will constitute the Internet of Things and be hosted on the platform of 5G will lead to the loss of our privacy, which is a fundamental right in a democracy. And as well, I do not give my consent for myself or my children to be harmed by uncontrollable wireless radiation. If I could, can I see a show of hands in the audience of the folks who are here to oppose 5G?
Oh, Mr. Russell, if you can address the members.
Oh, sorry, Chair. Looks like most of the folks are here today to oppose 5G. My deep concern is for how millimeter waves are absorbed by water, and I provided two links in my testimony. One is to the IEEE, that's the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, YouTube video on what is 5G, and it's fairly undefined. So what happens is water and biological material will absorb the wireless radiation.
Can you conclude in a sentence or two?
Yes, so that absorption of wireless radiation can lead to harm, and currently there are no studies showing the safety of fifth generation cell phone technology, so I'm here to ask for a moratorium on 5G within Maui County. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Russell. Members, any questions? Mr. Molina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Russell. You mentioned the concern regarding privacy and 5G. I thought that was an interesting statement because last night I was watching the television news, and I guess Amazon started their first delivery using drones. And like many people, we have concerns about our privacy and what this may cause. Can you kind of elaborate on that concern with privacy issues regarding 5G?
Right. I sure can, Councilman Molina. Thank you so much for the question. The major concern I have isn't so much of a camera on a drone looking in a window, although that is a concern. It's more along the lines of, you probably recall the WikiLeaks data dump, as well as Edward Snowden talking about the NSA and our total surveillance society that's happening. And on top of that, there was a financial company that lost control of 250 million citizens' information in our country last, I think, 2 years ago. The name is escaping, but you probably remember the one. And when the Internet of Things comes online with everybody's private information being transmitted, whether it's medical or banking records, that would be open to hacking. And I don't think there's a secure framework to transmit that data yet. So not only their health concerns, but the privacy of my personal banking information, my medical information, when all that comes online, who's protecting it, who's watching the watchers? And I don't feel the Federal Communications Commission, which is the legal framework, and we'll probably find out from our speakers, that is regulating this, was written in 1996, and that was in the days of 2G. So now we're in the era of 5G and soon 6G. So the U.S. Congress needs to write new laws regulating our privacy in this modern era.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Pang. I speak as a private citizen. I thought we were going to hear from the lawyers first, so let me just change my presentation a bit. There's no question 4G, 3G, 5G has unlimited published research about changing biochemical pathways in the human body. Not gene mutations, but biochemical pathways in the humans and all life forms. You're playing with fire here. Now, if the lawyers were going to present, they would tell us that, well, we just follow precedents. And they have followed precedents for petroleum, for pesticides, for vaping, for fentanyl. And when the consequences come later, we deal with it then. This is a bad way to operate. The only way I can argue against the lawyers is, like Simon Russell said, individual informed consent. You might be able to do it on the plants, on the fish, but you really can't do it on humans without individuals being allowed to opt out. 5G technology pervades your entire community. The long-term, short-term consequences are grossly unknown. Well published that you're playing with fire
Thank you for being
here.
here, Dr. Pang. Do you have studies that you can share with us about
Yeah.
the health issues?
Yes, I do. And I presented this on Akaku, and there's hundreds of studies in many life forms. And they're not about mutations. They're about biochemical pathways. Electricity penetrating even a quarter inch into your skin will signal distant organs because of what we learned in genetics. And that, the changing of biochemical pathways, for all the nerds out there, is called the kinases. Take a look at that and see if you still want to go with what we have done before with precedents.
Okay, that would be helpful if you could send us, not thousands of studies, but just something that would explain what you're talking
Yes.
about
Yes.
with data. Thank you.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Aloha. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I'm very grateful that the Council has provided this opportunity for experts in the field of 5G radiation to educate all of us. Lack of definitive proof that a technology is harmful does not mean the technology is safe. Yet the wireless industry has succeeded in selling this logical fallacy to the world. The upshot is that over the past 30 years, billions of people around the world have been subjected to a public health experiment. Use a mobile phone today, find out later if it causes genetic damage or cancer. Meanwhile, the industry has obstructed a full understanding of the science, and news organizations have failed to inform the public about what scientists really think. In other words, this public health experiment has been conducted without the informed consent of its subject, as Dr. Pang mentioned. In March 2018, the scientific peer review of a landmark United States government study done by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the National Toxicology Program concluded that there is clear evidence that radiation from mobile phones causes cancer, specifically a heart tissue cancer, and also in the brain and adrenal glands. This is with 3 and 4G radiation. 5G is very similar. It's just a little bit higher. So this is not safe technology, and we on Maui have to do everything in our power to prevent our lives from being harmed by this. Thank you.
I'm going to do a slide presentation, and it's important to start with the basics. 5G is a very complex topic, and so to start with, we need to know what 5G is, to the best of our ability, and actually what it isn't. So 5G stands for 5th generation, and it refers to that technology and wireless infrastructure. And it's not to be confused with 5 gigahertz. Sometimes on your cell phone, when it's searching for a Wi-Fi network, you might see 5G showing up on your cell phone or your cable box. And it says 5G, and then people think, oh my God, 5G. But that refers to 5 gigahertz, which is not what we're talking about today. The providers are now offering 5 gigahertz in addition to the 2.4 gigahertz, but that's different than 5G, which is 5th generation wireless technology and infrastructure, which is what we're focusing on today. So just wanting to make that distinction because there's some confusion there. So when cell phones first came out, we had 1G, the first generation, and basically the cell phones were about the size of a shoebox, and you could make a phone call. When the next generation came out, the second generation, 2G, that enabled us to access our email on our cell phones. And then we had the next generation, which was 3G, and the third generation brought us text messaging. So every time there's a new generation of cell phone technology, a new level of functionality is brought in. And now we have 4G, which is sometimes also called LTE. And 4G brought us the ability to stream and watch movies on our cell phones. And that's pretty much where we're at right now on Maui. We have mostly 4G infrastructure here, and we're able to do all of those things on our cell phones. And so the next generation is referred to as 5G. And we're being told that 5G is to bring us faster downloads, so that instead of waiting a few minutes for a movie to download on your phone, it will download in a few seconds. And we're also told that it's meant to bring us what's called reduced latency. Latency refers to the delay or the lag time that happens when you're interacting online. And reducing that delay, that lag time, is something that is highly sought after, particularly for people who do online gaming. So we're told that 5G is going to, reduce latency and speed up download times, but it's important to understand that 5G is about so much more than that. It's not really about faster downloads and reduced latency. 5G should actually be called 5G AI IoT, and AI stands for artificial intelligence, and IoT stands for the Internet of Things. 5G is meant to usher in robotics, artificial intelligence, driverless cars, augmented humans, augmented reality, and the Internet of Things. That's really what it's all about, and should definitely be understood that way. 5G will add on to and not replace our current, cell phone infrastructure. So all of the cell antennas and towers that we currently have will not go away with 5G. They will remain, and they will be added onto by additional infrastructure. 5G will utilize a different part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And it will utilize what's called millimeter wave frequencies of 24 gigahertz and above. And this part of the electromagnetic spectrum has never been used before for telecommunications use by the general public. So it's a grand experiment. And that will be talked about later on in the presentation by some of our presenters. The thing about these millimeter wave frequencies is that they do not travel as far, and they do not penetrate through material substance the way that 4G and 3G signals do. And because they don't travel as far or penetrate through material objects, there has to be many, many, many more antennas placed closer together. Because the signals, are limited in their ability, and they particularly do not penetrate well through trees, and they particularly do not penetrate well through trees that have a lot of moisture in their leaves. And in some areas where 5G has been deployed, they have been chopping down trees, removing them, so that the signals can get through. 5G, because of those qualities of the millimeter waves, we could end up with these 5G antennas, or small cells as they're called. We could end up with them installed every 2 to 10 homes in residential areas, and as close to 15 feet to your home, because they're using public infrastructure and public rights of way to mount these things. 5G also involves over 40,000 new satellites in low to mid orbit. So we're talking about not only the blanketing of the INA horizontally with this type of radiation, but we're also talking about this radiation coming vertically from above. This is a global deployment. 5G is being implemented all over the world, and pushback is happening all over the world. Right now in the US, there are about 24 cities that have currently deployed 5G technology. 5G also includes base stations and devices that contain multiple antennas in phased arrays. And these antennas are very unique in that they produce steerable laser-like beams that track each other. And that means that every 5G-enabled cell phone becomes like a miniature cell tower that you're holding in your hand or holding next to your brain. Every 5G-enabled cell phone contains dozens of tiny antennas to track and aim a narrowly focused beam to search and connect to the nearest antenna, which may be in another device, it may be in an appliance, it may be in an antenna, it may be in another phone. And the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, which is tasked with creating the regulations around this, has approved 5G signals at 20 watts, which is 10 times more powerful than what we currently have. So we're talking about radiation that is 10 to hundreds of times greater than what we currently have. This is all designed to be part of the Internet of Things, as I mentioned earlier. We're meant to have a smart house where everything, and I do mean everything, inside your home is chipped or antennaed and enabled with wireless radiation to communicate and connect with everything else and to be accessed, through your phone or through your Echo or through your whatever those things are called. Thank you. Through those. And we already have right now on the market, for example, smart diapers. And a smart diaper is designed so that you don't have to pick up your baby and hold your baby and check the baby's diaper. No. All you have to do is interact with your phone, because your phone will tell you when the baby's diaper needs to be changed. We also have smart mattresses that are designed to sense everything about your body as you sleep or are in that bed. And the smart mattresses will also tell you if your partner is cheating on you. We'll track infidelity that happens inside the bed. We have smart pills that are designed to track whether or not you take the pill. And if you do not take the pill, that is possibly reported to your healthcare provider, your doctor, or your insurance company. And if you do take the pills, then the pills are designed to track everything going on inside your body as the pill passes through your system. So, these devices are already in existence. They're already on the market. And because we want to keep this G-rated, we will not go into sex bots or condoms or so forth. So the smart homes are designed to become part of smart cities, and the smart cities contain smart buildings, and everything is meant to interact all together. Driverless cars are also part of this, and part of the IoT, the Internet of Things, and estimates are that by the end of next year, there will be 20 billion smart devices already in use, and then 1 trillion and beyond after that. And so all of the smart cities are designed to interact with other smart cities in smart countries, and so we have this interconnected planet. So what is going on in Hawaii? What about Hawaii? Well, right now on Oahu, there are 57 5G small cells already deployed. And as you can see by the map, they're not just isolated to Honolulu. They are spread out. And these are 5G small cells that were installed by Mobility, which is a contractor for Sprint. Maui has already been approached by Verizon, apparently, to implement 5G on Maui, we have been told. This is a photograph from Honolulu of 5G infrastructure. As you can see, it's mounted on this public light pole. This is another photograph from Honolulu of 5G infrastructure mounted on the public light pole. And, you know, Honolulu has skyscrapers, right? And so you can see how huge, how tall these light posts are and how big this type of infrastructure is. So imagine this massive type of infrastructure here on Maui. The 5G infrastructure is not very pretty. It's not very aesthetically pleasing. This is showing us 5G infrastructure mounted on telephone pole. This is not in Hawaii, but what I wanted to show you is what it looks like up close and how close it is to a home, to our homes. This is an image of an online tracking system that tracks satellites in real time. And this is a screenshot of an Elon Musk Starlink-enabled 5G satellite orbiting over the island of Oahu, presumably interacting with the 5G small cells there. And so we do have 5G satellites orbiting over the Hawaiian Islands right now, and this particular satellite does not confine itself to Oahu, by the way. And then we have the drones. These football field-sized drones were proposed for the island of Lanai. They were originally proposed to transmit 5G. 5G was removed and replaced with 4G. And these football field-sized drones are meant to fly in the stratosphere and meant to beam down toxic radiation and interface with existing infrastructure. This project was proposed by UH, and one of the funders was Google. And Google also has what's called the Google Loon. And the Loon is a tennis court-sized helium balloon. And this is an image of a screenshot from a website that tracks aircraft. And this image is showing us that this Google Loon was orbiting over the Hawaiian Islands, particularly over Maui County, for about a week at the end of July, beginning of August of this year. Presumably, it was doing some type of recon for the drone. By the way, the drone application has been withdrawn at this point in time, but they have said that they're planning to resubmit. You know, the Loon, by the way, is 4G enabled, so it's emitting 4G signals from the stratosphere as well as a stratospheric tennis court-sized helium balloon. So we have this here already. We have these things happening here on Maui. And there's an assumption that wireless radiation must be safe because it's everywhere, right? I mean, we have cordless phones, we have cell phones, we have Wi-Fi, we have cordless baby monitors, we have Bluetooth, we have Fitbit, we have smart watches, on and on and on it goes. And we think that because we have these things, that it must be safe, right? Well, we don't have to look too far back in history to see that that's not the case. This is Time Magazine 1947 saying DDT is good for me, saying that exhaustive tests have shown that when properly used, DDT is a benefactor of all humanity. Well, we know better now, right? And then, of course, there were the X-ray machines in shoe stores in the 1950s. These were everywhere. You just stick your foot in there, and it was supposed to give you an accurate shoe size. Children used to play with these X-ray machines in shoe stores. And, of course, we know better now, right? And then, well, there's the big tobacco. When cigarettes first came out, everybody was smoking cigarettes. Santa Claus smoking cigarettes, babies smoking cigarettes. The first time I flew on an airplane, I was 8 years old. Every single food tray on the airplane, including mine as an 8-year-old, contained a small packet of cigarettes. They were passing these things out like candy. And yes, you could smoke cigarettes on the airplane at that time. Doctors were recommending that people smoke cigarettes. My best friend's mother was told to smoke cigarettes during her pregnancy because she was told that it would help with the pregnancy. Of course, we know better now. Scientists were saying smoking is good for us. The dentists got in on the act. And big tobacco is probably the best example of this, but there's this time lag that happens between when a new product or new technology is put on the market and when enough scientific research can be done to show whether that product is safe or not. And then there's another time lag that happens before, if it's shown harmful, that government regulation can actually be enacted. And corporations are very well aware of these time lags, and they take full advantage of it. And as I said, big tobacco is the best example of this. It's known as the tobacco playbook. Step number 1, create a highly addictive, harmful product. And, you know, big telecom knows that cell phones are addictive. They are highly addictive. Hide the relevant research. Big telecom is doing this, just like big tobacco did. Big tobacco knew that cigarette smoking was bad for us, and they hid the research. Big telecom knows that wireless radiation is harmful. If you read the owner's manual of your cell phone, you will see that it says in there that to operate your cell phone safely, you have to hold it at least half an inch away from your body. Most people don't do that. Why do they say that? They know it's harmful. They're discrediting opposing researchers. They're paying off researchers to prevent them from publishing their research in the first place. They're taking over the regulating agencies. And last but not least, pouring on the propaganda to the public, saying that you have to have this technology, you know, it's good for you, it makes you safer, and on it goes. So with big telecom, they're very aware. There are many, many examples of this, and there's a lot of money to be made in that time lag. And, you know, I should probably also have put vaping on here because that's a recent example of this as well, in addition to opioids, right? So with big telecom, the stakes are extremely high. We're talking about literally trillions upon trillions of dollars that are at play in this industry. So what does the relevant research show? Well, I don't have time to go into it. It's a massive body of literature, and I'm hoping that perhaps we can have a follow-up panel that focuses on health effects and environmental effects and cultural effects, because it's a huge piece of this puzzle, and, you know, just don't have time to go into it right now. But we thought it best to focus on legal stuff first, since the question is always, well, what can we legally do? What can we legally do? So we're starting there. But please know that there is a massive research base. At this point, we can say over 10,000 peer-reviewed research studies showing clinical evidence of sick and injured people from wireless radiation, experimental evidence showing DNA damage, a variety of tumors, damage to cells and organ systems in humans, also animals and plants, by the way, epidemiological evidence showing cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. The bottom line is that wireless radiation is harmful to life. When it comes to 5G, back in February of this year, big telecom was forced to admit, thanks to Senator Richard Blumenthal, that they have done no scientific studies on the safety of 5G, and they have no plans to do any. Isn't that comforting? So why is our government not protecting us? It's a very good question. Well, the FCC is problematic. The safety limits have not been updated since 1992. the FCC guidelines were based on science from the 1980s. How many of us had a cell phone in the 1980s? Wi-Fi didn't exist in the 1980s. So we're talking about obsolete, outdated research that is determining the safety limits. The US standards are among the least protective in the world. We also have the Telecom Act of 1996, Section 704, that's problematic because it basically says that telecom infrastructure, antennas, towers, cannot be regulated based on environmental effects, and that has been interpreted to include health effects. The FCC is what is called a captured agency. It has been captured and completely taken over by the industry that it is supposed to be regulating. This is a report by the Harvard Ethics Committee entitled Captured Agency, and it's all about how the FCC is has in fact been captured. So it's one of the reasons why the government is not protecting us at the federal level. What about Hawaii? Well, we have some problematic legislation of our own. Last year, Governor Ige signed into law the rapid deployment of 5G. And this legislation basically limits our home rule. It limits what counties can do in terms of 5G deployment. And when Burt Lum was here this past spring, you may recall we asked him some difficult questions, and he said that the counties have the final say in 5G, which in fact is true. The counties do have the final say in 5G, but within a very limited parameters, let's just say. So the counties do have some power here, but it is restricted, and we'll learn more about what the options are when our legal experts come on later in the panel. Then we have our very own Senator Brian Schatz, he just loves 5G, and it just can't come fast enough as far as he's concerned. He introduced legislation last year that didn't pass, and now he's at it again this year. He has co-sponsored the Streamlined Small Cell Deployment Act, which takes away our local authority across the country, would limit the amount of time that jurisdictions have to act, and restricts the ways that we can act. And he's also co-sponsored the Developing Innovation and Growing the Internet of Things Act. So Schatz wants to identify and remove anything that gets in the way of the rapid deployment of the Internet of Things. And we have reached out to him, and we have provided him with a lot of information about the dangers of 5G and IoT, and Senator Schatz refuses to listen. There is pushback, however. Senator Dianne Feinstein has introduced a bill to undo the FCC power grab and to restore local authority. There has been a formal letter of complaint filed to the FCC chair that's opposing their refusal to update their guidelines. And there is currently a lawsuit against the FCC for constitutional violations. And in addition, there are ongoing lawsuits against the FCC for the constitutional overreach in the rollout of 5G. And as you can see here, this is a massive list. The National League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, National Association of Counties, National Association of Regional Councils, National Association of Towns and Townships. The list goes on. And in all, there are tens of thousands of local municipalities that are opposing this type of overreach and wanting to restore their home rule when it comes to 5G deployment. So this is very, very good news. And just so you know, we're not just here to say, no this, no that, we don't want this, we don't want that. There is a safe alternative to 5G, and it's SafeG. And it consists of fiber optics. So we want faster downloads too. We like technology. We're not Luddites. We don't want to go back to the dark ages. We want to have technology, but we just want it to be safe. So fiber is our friend, and there are many, many benefits to fiber optics. Fiber optics gives us faster internet than wireless. It gives us equal access, better voice quality. It's more reliable. It's more energy efficient, which should be noted here, in Hawaii. It's more resilient. In the long run, it's less expensive. It's safer, it's more secure, it's not as easily hackable as wireless. It offers more privacy, it's healthier, it's better for the environment, and it provides more system integrity. So please check out SafeG. And I will end on that note. Thank you very much for your attention and for this opportunity.